So hi everyone, this is Josh giving Achievement Squad coming at you with a 100% achievement trophy walkthrough for the title We Were Here Expeditions, the Friendship. So overall, this is a nice little addition to the series, and this one's a little bit shorter than the previous two games. It's going to take you roughly 1 hour and a half to get through the full completion, and on this one as well you will not have to swap roles or anything like that at all. All achievements will unlock with a single playthrough with player 2. Okay, and for us to get the full completion, we will have to complete standard puzzles as all of the previous games. However, you can score a gold ticket, a silver ticket, or a bronze ticket for this one. In this case, we need to get a gold ticket on all puzzles for the full completion. There is one small puzzle in the beginning that you'll need to solve, and then there are 3 majorly big kind of trials or puzzles that you'll need to solve afterwards. And once we've got those gold tickets, we will be able to move forward. Now, like all in the previous games, the first achievement is to actually invite a player to the game. So in this case, I'm inviting the A squad account, or you'll need to type in the friend ID that you're the person that you wish to invite. The friend ID is your gamer tag with the hashtag and a random set of numbers on the end. Once you've invited them in, they will join in and you'll get the achievement. You'll need to do this also on player 2's profile. And yeah, from here pretty much you'll need to kickstart it, ready it up, and I'll regroup with you after the first initial cutscene. So what we've done, as we've done in the previous guides for this game, down in the bottom right hand corner you will see that you're looking either from player 1 or player 2's perspective, as player 1 and player 2 will have different responsibilities throughout the game to solve the puzzles. Now it's worth noting that if you don't get the gold ticket on the first try, you can retry as many times on any of the puzzles as you like by feeding your golden ticket, your silver ticket, or your bronze ticket into the retry machine, and we'll be able to demonstrate that shortly in a moment time. So for this part you just need to follow the main path and the on-screen prompts until you reach the amusement park. Okay, so we've just arrived in Heart Isle, and we're going to be from the perspective of player 1 to begin with. Make your way down the stairs and take a right, and you want to go over here and hold on to the broken fence whilst player 2 goes through that fence. And once player 2 has gone through the fence, you'll need to let go as player 1, and at this point in time you'll be separated for the next 2 trials. So just switching that to player 2's perspective, you also come in down through the right where you'll see player 1 holding the fence open in waiting, and as you come through you'll want to continue straight forward, and you'll see that player 1 is now trapped on the other side of the fence. Make your way down to this area just here, and there is going to be a ship steering wheel. You just want to wait 1 moment here. For player 1, they need to go from that fence, take a left and follow the wall around to the right, and as you come into this area you're going to see the Friendship entrance. Player 2 on the other side of the fence by the steering wheel needs to hold on to the steering wheel to open up the gate in front of player 1, and once player 1 has gone through they can let go. So in this case it raises the anchor in front of player 1, and then player 1 and player 2 just need to continue forward until they reach the respective huts on the very end of this area. Player 1 will eventually reach a ticket office, and then player 2 will walk forward until they reach a staffing area. So as we mentioned earlier, gaining tickets is one of the main ways to get all of the achievements, and we need to get gold tickets across the board. However, there is an achievement for shredding 5 tickets. Now you might get this naturally through the progress of the game, but it introduces the mechanic here. So you'll see these ticket machines around, and they'll print out this ticket that will either say retry, bronze, silver or gold. In this case, the machine has already got a retry sticker in it, and we need to feed it into the retry machine, and that's going to shred your ticket. You don't want to put it into these machines just yet straight away on the right. Just shred this ticket. You can shred any ticket. You can shred gold tickets, silver tickets, bronze tickets, and once you do that, it resets the puzzle. Now for the achievement, we need to get 5 tickets shredded altogether. You might get this through natural progression as you're playing through the game. I just farm it straight away in the beginning. So using this machine in front of us where the ticket guy is, just push any button on the dashboards and keep getting these retry tickets and shredding them through the machine. Once you've shredded 5 of these in total, you'll bag yourself an achievement for not being good at the game. So once you've done that, you'll bag yourself the achievement for shredding 5 tickets. You can, like I say, get that naturally through the game quite easily. But now we're going to solve the real puzzle here. Now the solution to the puzzle is the same, however our answers will always be different, and we need to rely on player 2 to help us move forward with this one. So player 2 is going to go into the back staff room, and as you enter the staff only room at the back, you'll notice that there is these scrolls pinned up on the wall. Underneath you've got a bronze, silver and a gold ticket. We want to focus on the gold one in the middle, and the solution to my puzzle is square, coin to be inserted, turn the wheel, move the handle and pull the knob. So that will be different for you, but for player 2 they need to inform player 1 of the instructions that they need to follow, and you need to follow the order of the arrows. So in our case we need to press the square button, insert the coin, turn the valve, move the handle, pull the knob. And that's all done on the ticket machine here, and once it's done correctly it will print out a gold ticket for us. Once you've done that, you both need to make your way to the central area. So for player 1, they'll need to put the golden ticket in the golden slot that's in front of them. Do not put it into another slot, just put it into the golden one. Make your way forward until you're at the little river. Player 2 will also need to come out of the staff room into the middle section, and you'll just need to wait a few minutes for a boat to arrive. Once you've done that, you both need to hop on and just ride the journey to the very end. You'll pop some achievements and trophies along the way.
Do we have here? A new duo of hopeful explorers seeking my blessing? Go on, dears. Come in. So, you want to know if you're ready to sail the 7 seas together? Whether you're sulking swabbies or close-knit co-captains, a crew tight like a knot, or flimsy driftwood in a storm. Well, do I have just the thing for you? Oh, don't worry, dears. It'll all be perfectly safe. My name is Marina Seaworthy, legendary adventurer and captain of the FriendShip. I've seen all four corners of the earth and sailed with the best and the worst. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that only true friends stand a chance when the seas get rough. You will need communication, crystal clear. True teamwork, balanced and fair. And blind trust come fortune or peril. If you want my blessing, then show me what your friendship is made of. Set sail, enter my 3 trials, and claim your rewards. Bring me a vessel worthy of your bond. It's time to build your friendship. Out there, communication is key. You will need to read your crew like a book. Be honest, be clear, and be quick about it. Next up, the Crewmate Carousel.
Okay, so we're coming up on the Crewmate Carousel puzzle, and this is going to require a lot of communication between the 2 players, as you cannot see what each other is doing. So starting off with player 1, just to kind of describe the area. On your right hand side you've got the ticket entry point. We'll come back to this later. And the goal of this puzzle is to kind of describe what's happening in your room. So as you enter, on the left hand side you have the retry section, and then directly in front of you I have a set of buttons that can be interacted with. We're not going to push them just yet. And then on the right hand side you'll see a little doll doing a particular expression or move. The goal of this puzzle is for us to describe to each other what the expression the puppet is doing, and make sure that we push the right button that corresponds to that expression. So for player 2, when they go up into their room, they're not going to have one puppet and multiple buttons. They'll have 4 puppets on display to begin with. And we need to identify the puppet of player 1 that is doing the expression and inform them of the button that they need to press underneath. So the behavior of the puppet in player 1's room matches one of the puppets in player 2's room, and player 2 then needs to describe the button which they need to push, which is directly underneath the puppets, as you can see on player 2's screen here. So to get gold you will need to get 15 right in a row within the allotted time frame. On round 2, which is 5, when you've got 5 correct, it will switch to round 2. The roles will reverse, and then same again on round 3 between each turn. So how this works then, as we mentioned earlier, player 1 will go up into the room and they will look at the dummy that is in the room, and they'll describe what that dummy is doing. In our case, he's popping one leg behind the other and his hands underneath his chin. So that is the description that we need to give across to player 2. And then player 2 will need to describe back what is the button underneath that same puppet that is doing that same action. So in this case it is the 3rd puppet in for player 2. So then player 2 needs to dictate to player 1 what they need to push, which is the waves with the semicircle. So player 1 in their room will need to find that button. Once you push this in, this is going to trigger the timer and it starts from here. So remember, player 1 in this first round must describe the pose of the doll, and player 2 must feed back the description of what the button is that needs to be pushed.
Here comes the first round.
So in this case, it's a guy scratching his head. And then for player 2, the guy scratching his head has a person image underneath him. And then player 1 will need to find and identify correctly that button within the time frame. So it's the green one in this case, and push it down. So player 1 describes the actions of the puppet. Player 2 finds the puppet and describes the button underneath for player 1 to go push that correct one. So you'll need to rinse and repeat this 5 times in a row before round 2. Once you have this correct 5 times in a row, the roles are going to reverse, and player 2 is going to need to tell player 1 what puppet pose is going on their side, and player 1 needs to feedback player 2 which button that they need to push. So in this case, this guy is looking scared. Player 1 needs to identify the character that is looking scared and tell them what button to push. So it's the same, but just with roles flipped over. Do this 5 times in a row, and it's going to trigger round 3. If you make a mistake, just take the ticket out of the machine, shred it to cause a retry, and so shred it in the retry machine to trigger everything again. So be warned, the roles reverse now between each go as opposed to each round. So you'll be flipping the roles on round 3 on every 10, and the number of buttons to push or the puppets to identify will increase by double. So there'll be 8 buttons to choose from or 8 puppets to identify from. So I've got a scared hand guy, and as you can see, there's more puppets for player 2 now, but it's the same premise, just also in a quicker time frame. So you need to identify again the right puppet and then find the right button that you need to push. Rinse and repeat this. Remember that also the roles will swap between every turn. Now you'll know that if you've done this correctly, because when you pull the ticket machine at the end, you'll score 15 stars in total. Okay, so we're coming to the end of that now, and we've pushed all the buttons correctly in within the time frame. Be warned, obviously, if you make a mistake, it resets the puzzle back to square one, and you have to go through it again. You can't have mistakes in this, unfortunately. But once it's over, you'll be able to pull the lever in the corner, and that is going to produce one of the tickets. If it's not a gold ticket, put it into the retry machine. If it's a gold ticket, you want to take it back to the boat. So just to confirm, that is 15 correct answers in a row that you need to get. Once you've done that, so grab your ticket, make your way back down to the boat. You'll bag yourself an achievement at this time for also getting a ticket out of the Crewmate Carousel game, and then place the ticket in the middle slot. And they're going to bring down some friends from above that are going to redecorate the ship that's in front of you. You'll also bag yourself the achievement gold pack at the same time for achieving the maximum possible score in Crewmate Carousel. Once that's over, you want to hop onto the boat and go for another little ride.
Bravo! You are an open book to each other. So, you hear each other. That's a good start. But what use is that if you don't act as one? The next trial will test your ability to coordinate, compromise, and collaborate. Will you rise to the task? Or sink like a stone?
So the next puzzle is very much mathematics driven. Your scores will be multiplied together, and your goal is to get 21 points for each colour. So player 1 needs to get a minimum of 7 points, and player 2 needs to get a minimum of 3 points with each colour to be successful at this. And I'll explain how this works now. So in player 1's room, we're going to make our way in, and we're going to be surrounded by these hexagons which have A, B and C above them in the wall. Player 2 is going to be on the other side of the wall, and at the end we've got the scoring system. So hexagons are the responsibility of player 1, pillars are the responsibility of player 2. And the goal is to multiply your colour scores together to get 21. This is a little bit tricky to explain. You have only 10 turns to do this in. And the scoring system for player 1 is to light up as much of the floor tiles as possible. Having a singular piece on its own will score you only 0. And having 2 pieces that are matched together will score you 2. Having 3 pieces matched together will score you 3. The tiles that are being placed by player 1 will affect where player 2 can place their pillars. So I'm going to show you that now briefly from player 2's view. So a pillar in this scenario, and the ticket machine by the way is on player 2's side, a pillar can only be placed on a tile that contains its colour. You will need to group all of the pillars together as best as possible, and you'll need a minimum of 3 of each colour for pillar to be successful at this puzzle. Player 2 also has the ticket machine and the shred machine on their side, so if you make a mistake you'll need to hit the retry option. And you'll notice as you come in, on the left hand side you will see C, B and A, which corresponds to player 1 side, and they are on the other side, and you'll see the little hexagons underneath. Now you need to coordinate between player 1 and player 2 where you put the tile down, because where player 1 puts the tile down will affect where player 2 can place the tiles. So you'll look at the back of them and you will see that you've got, for example, a red pillar with a green tile behind it. Your floors are linked together, so wherever player 1 puts the tile will determine where player 2 could put the green pillar. So the goal here is you've got to communicate between the pair of you to score the most points possible. So if I pick up B, player 2 has to use B. You cannot pick A, B, or C indifferently. You can only use the same one. So you need to identify the tile that is going to score you the most points. And so that we're all on the same page, the solution is the same. However, the answer is different. So your tiles and your pillars will be completely different to what you see on the screen. You just have to collaborate on what is the best way to get the most score on this one. So we're analyzing C is the best option because that allows player 2 to put down a green pillar and in the future a blue pillar. And it also helps player 1 to score an additional point with green and bring also 2 additional points for red. So we grab C, and what you'll see now is that player 2 is standing on different points on the floor because that's going to trigger a little flashlight to go over the floor to guide player 1 on where player 2 is stood. So once you place it down, you need to make sure that you're lighting up the tiles, and that's going to cause a new recess to appear for player 2. Player 2 is now grabbing their pillar, and they can only place the green pillar on any of the hexagons that have a green blob on them. That's then going to cause a score of 1 and 3 to go in on these pieces, and it's going to cycle to new pieces. So we've got 3 points on the board now for green, and we need to keep working through this. So we're now discussing which tile to place next. So this is the thing you need to be doing with your player 1 and player 2, is figuring out whether you want to place A, B, or C down and which one is going to enable you to score the most effective. In this case, A is a very good option for us because it allows us to place down a green pillar as well as making another slot in the floor for a green pillar. And what player 2 is doing right now is they're standing where they would like for the tile to be placed. So this is the indicator. You can see the light on player 1 side, and that's going to give you an indication they can stand where you want them to, where they want the tile placed, so that they get the green pillar slot on the floor on the other side. So in this case, I pick up A, and Brennan returns to the spot on the floor where he'd like this to go. And what you need to do, obviously, for player 1 is make sure that you orientate so that you score the most effective points as possible, as well as benefiting the other player. So once you find that right spot, you want to orientate it the right way and then place it down. So in this case, I add another point to the red board, as well as setting myself up to score more points with blue. So once that piece is down, then player 2 is grabbing their next pillar, and they want to grab that and they want to place that onto one of the available slots on the floor. In this case, we're putting down a second green one. You can only put it on where there's a hexagon that's got green on it, and placing it next to another hexagon increases the score. So we've now got 2 green pillars down. That's 2 times 3 for green, and then the others are not multiplied yet. So you've got to keep going backwards and forwards. The goal is to have a minimum of 3 pillars set down with each colour grouped together. And then on player 1 side, you need to score a minimum of 7 pieces of the colour tiled lit up. It just takes a lot of backwards and forwards communication. Make sure that you're identifying the best hexagon that is going to get you the most score for both players. It's not a case of that one player can dominate and put down as many tiles as that they need for each pillar. You need to make trade-offs, okay? So you got to get the right balance in between to make this successful. So you're not always going to score big, but the idea is to score as big as you can each time. So I'm not going to rate this puzzle any further. I mean, you can use our video to kind of follow along in terms of the guidelines and watch what we're doing and how we're guiding each other. But I will flag the colors are randomized, the pillars are randomized, the tiles are randomized, so you're not going to have the same answer. It's the same solution, but not the same answer. So once that's over, you should have a minimum of 21 points scored on each colour. So it's multiplying the pillars by the number of lit up parts of the tiles on player 1 side, and you'll bag yourself the achievement for doing tiles and trails and treasures for maps and markers and getting 1 ticket out of it. As you can see, we've maxed it out as high as we can. Once that's over, then player 2 will be able to pull the lever, and you'll know that this is correct because this will go all the way up to 21. If it's not, use the shred machine next to you. But I say it's one of those puzzles where you just need to take your time and communicate effectively. Player 2 then needs to head back to the boat, and player 1 will also need to do the same in the background. And you need to place the ticket into the central machine and both get back onto the boat. We're going to move over to the Siren's Curse trial. And that is the final trial in the game.
Bravo! Like fish in the water. Well done, my dears. But that was the easy part. Let's see how you fare when the seas get rough. Will you weather the storm together, or will you jump ship? This last trial will demand your utmost devotion. Prepare for the Siren's Curse.
So this next puzzle is a bit more of a gauntlet as opposed to a puzzle, but it requires a lot of communication between player 2 and player 1. So we're going to start off with player 2 in this case. Player 1's already gone ahead into the main room. You both get off at the same side of the boat, and on your right hand side you'll see the ticket point. And our goal is to press the 9 buttons in this area that are on the lighthouses. However, this is a little bit tricky because player 1 will be hallucinating. So it's going to be great fun. So in this room here, which is the main room, you'll find a lever for pulling and creating your ticket, the retry station. And then directly in front of you, there is the central lever that you'll need to pull. This is going to separate player 1 and player 2 again. But player 1 needs to go through the door once it's open. So player 1 needs to enter the door, and as they're going in, they're going to get gassed. And they're going to start to hallucinate. They'll be seeing things that they should be seeing and things that they should not be seeing. So they're going to be very reliant on player 2 to guide them correctly. Player 2 needs to go up the stairs and through the first door that is directly in front of them and wait on the ledge that is outside. And then player 1, recommend you take your torch out so player 2 can see you easy. We'll go up the stairs and take a left, and going to push button 1 out of 9 for the lighthouses. That's going to let off some little fireworks. And then you'll need to go to the ledge that is behind you. Player 2 will be above you, just up on the ledge there. And they're going to guide you across some invisible ledges that you cannot see. So in this case, player 2 will tell player 1 to walk forward and go off the edge. As you can see, there's a lighthouse that player 2 needs to guide player 1 to. So they need to drop down, walk to the very end of the ledge, and just so you can see it from player 1's perspective. And this is why communication is key, because player 2 will need to stop player 1 from walking off the edge. The ledges are completely invisible. When you get to a certain point, player 2 should tell the player 1 to turn right and go to the invisible lighthouse. Press the button, and then you'll need to backtrack and then take a left and start going back to where they dropped down. Take a left and then go up the stairs or the ramp that is on that side. and then make your way forward until you reach a set of area where there's like this netting. Do not move forward just yet. Okay, and then player 2 needs to follow where player 1 is going and walk to the end of this walkway just here, and above them you're going to see a clock above player 1. That clock, when the timer hits 0, the ledge is going to drop down in front of them and change. So player 2 needs to instruct player 1 on when to jump onto the ledge so that they can transfer across to the other side correctly. So when it hits the 0, you'll see they change. So player 2 now says player 1 jump onto the ledge and then jump again, and that's going to allow them to move across. So looking at it from player 1's perspective, they can't see the clock on the right hand side because it's invisible. So listening to player 2, you want to walk onto the ledge, jump over the gap, and then jump down, and to the left you're going to find a lighthouse you need to press. Turn around from here and go up the slope behind you. Do not go to the lighthouse that player 1 can see. So you need to use player 2 to guide player 1 to the next lighthouse, which is up the hill, and then take a right. Player 1 does not go left because that lighthouse is not real, and then press the button at the top here, and that's 4 out of 9. So lighthouse on the left is fake, the invisible lighthouse on the right is real. Player 1 then needs to make their way back. Don't worry, there's no invisible ledges that are going to trip you up here, and go down to the octopus mouth entrance. Now the trick to this one is every time player 1 jumps, the ledges in front of them move around. So just quickly kind of catching up. So you can see the perspective now from player 2's side. They need to tell player 1 to jump over the lights that are lit up in specific to land on the next ledge. So every time player 1 jumps, the ledges will move. So player 1 is going to do a bit of spam jumping right now, and they need to make sure that there is a ledge in front of them. Yeah, player 2 needs to tell player 1 which set of lights to jump over. All lights are on for player 1 and only a set and set are off for player 2. So once that's in the right place, this is the same answer always. Player 1 needs to walk on. They need to jump over the right set of lights, and that's going to move the ledge directly underneath them. And then the set of lights that are on their left. And then they need to jump forward onto the next ledge, and then jump forward again, and then turn to the left and jump over those lights, and then exit to the little lighthouse and push the button. So seeing that from player 1's perspective, you can see all the lights are turned on. Jumping up and down are going to move the ledges into the right place. So player 1 will need to walk on the ledge when it's back in front of them. Jump over to the right, turn left and then jump over, jump forward into the next section, jump forward again, turn left and jump over, and then go to the lighthouse button thing and push it. Okay, for the next segment, player 1 is going to continue hallucinating, and they're going to be watching out for some waves. So player 2 needs to use their functional eyes to identify where the gaps are in the wave. So we're directly above where player 1 is currently, and player 1 needs to drop down and trigger this puzzle to happen. So they'll turn to the right, and these waves are going to start coming down this hill. So to player 1, it looks like a full wave, and when a wave successfully hits you, it's going to knock you back and push you off the edge. However, there actually are gaps in these waves, so some trickery just here. So looking at it from player 2 perspective, where they're just above you, they will be able to tell you where the gap lies. So it's either going to be in row 1, 2 or 3, and they need to tell you where the gap is. So the way we did this is that we labelled each track 1, 2 and 3. In this case, the gap is on track 2. So player 1 could walk out to track 2 at this point in time and go through the gap. The gap is in now track 1. It's again in track 1 on the next wave. And now we say, okay, there's a gap in track 3, go forward. So that allows player 1 to start walking up the hill. So to see it from their perspective, player 1 is going to be walking through these fake waves that they cannot see. So you see I'll go straight through them. But I'm following the guidance of player 2. They'll keep telling you where the gap is in the wave. And if you hit a solid object, you'll know about it because it's going to bounce you backwards. They'll tell you which gap that you need to go through. So in this case, unfortunately, here I get hit and I get pushed back, but I go back through, and then up on the right hand side is another lighthouse. So once you're clear of that, turn around and you'll be able to drop down, and you want to just stop by the anchor here. Don't go any further. There's more invisible stuff. So switching to player 2's perspective, you'll see that there's some giant pendulums that are swinging backwards and forwards. Player 1 needs to run between each of these giant pendulums without getting knocked off the edge, and player 2 needs to give the instruction on when it's safe to go. It's very straightforward, but for player 1 you can actually kind of gauge it. You can hear the pendulum go by you. Just want to stop by to the double pillars each time because it's the safe space. So looking at it from player 1's angle, you can't see the pendulums, but you can hear them go by. But following the instructions of player 2, run forward between each double pillar set, and that is going to get you safely across. Once you're at the end, push the lighthouse switch to your left. So now, probably for the hardest part of this particular trial, there is a monster of an invisible ledge that you need to follow under the guidance of player 2. So it's on the right hand side of player 1, and it's best to show it from this angle. So you'll see that there's also a track because they're going to get chased by a ghost boat, but in this case you want to go at this with a slow speed. So the moment player 1 steps onto the track, it's going to cause the area to light up. There'll be lots of lights coming on, and use landmarks as a guiding mechanism for them to turn towards. So in this case, I can keep walking straight towards player number 2 because they're directly underneath it. But player 2 needs to say stop, go forward, turn right, turn left, whatever it is, the instruction that is required to get across. So following that guidance, Brennan is now saying to me walk forward. He will then tell me to stop and then turn right and come towards him. And then to stop, and eventually the screen is going to shake and this guy is going to come out. Now it moves very slowly, so you don't need to worry about it too much, but if he gets close to you, it's going to push you off. Brennan's now guiding me towards the fish that is on the wall, and when I get too close to the edge, he's going to tell me to stop and take a little bit of a left to line up, and then to walk forwards. You don't need to particularly rush this, but you got to keep making your way down the ledge to the lighthouse. So player 2 needs to tell player 1 when to start and stop in the direction that they need to turn. Use the pictures of things like crocodiles and landmarks to guide them along the way, and that's going to stop them from falling off. You'll want to do that to the very first lighthouse, and then there is a second lighthouse at the end that player 2 needs to guide player 1 to, and that's going to be the final lighthouse of the game. So again, guide them with the directions and moving around for player 2 to get the appropriate view. And as you get close to the end, there's going to be a gap in front of player number 1. And player number 1 will need to tell player number 2 on when to jump. Be careful not to fall down the hole, because if you do, the entire puzzle resets. Once you're over, player 1 needs to push that final button, and that's going to complete this obstacle course, and you will have pushed 9 lighthouses altogether, and that's going to allow you to get the maximum tickets. So player 1 needs to make their way back to the entrance. Player 2 will need to then drop back down in the center of the main area where they were stood up, and they will need to open the door again for player 1. So once they're across, the button's pushed, the gates open so they can start to leave. You turn left and you can go back into the main area where the lights are shining, and you'll drop down into below, and player 1 is making their way back in. Once you're in, you can just fall down. You don't need to worry about fall damage or anything. Pull the switch, and at this point it doesn't matter which player does this, but in our case it's just player 1 because it's closer to them. Pull the lever and grab the final golden ticket. You should have a score of 9 if this is done correctly. If you don't have a score of 9, you'll need to reset and run again. But you should also bag yourself an achievement at this point in time for getting a ticket for the Siren's Curse achievement, and then you want to make your way down to your boat, and you're going to put that golden ticket into the middle slot. This is going to bag you the achievements for getting gold tickets in all trials, as well as the gold ticket in the Siren trial. And once you get into the boat, that is the end of the game. You just need to ride it to the very end. So just as a recap, to get all of the achievements, you need to get gold in all of the trials. If you fail at getting gold, you'll need to do a retry and shred the ticket that you got. But if you've got gold in all of the trials along the way, your final achievement should pop as you are completing the game in the last cutscene. So from this point onwards, just hop in the boat, ride it to the end, and you should have the full 1000 gamer score or all of the trophies. I've been Just again from the Achievement Squad. If you find this guide useful, drop us a like, comment, subscribe, and happy hunting.
Legendary performance, dears. Bravo, dears, bravo! You've passed my 3 trials. Now come here and show me what you've built. Oh, yes, you have all the qualities of a legendary crew. With a friendship like that, you will make big waves. How big? Well, that's up to you. You are ready. I give you my blessing. Off you go, dears. Fair winds and farewell.